Hello friends, Jenkins Dota here, bringing you another Dota 2 video on behalf of DotaAlchemy.com, and in this video I'm going to be talking about somewhat of a complicated subject, perhaps a misunderstood subject, and that is going to be positioning. So the very first thing that I want to talk about, which I think is arguably the most important thing, is how do you actually look at a game before it starts and judge how you should be positioning in the game, in fights, in the laning phase, and just in general. And the way that you do that is you essentially just want to look at the enemy team's draft, look at your draft, and determine if there are any jobs that are very, very important in the game that only you can do. So in this game, for example, I'm Zeus. They have this hero, Terrorblade, one of the best heroes in the current patch. Very, very hard carry. Arguably the best carry in the patch right now. And the main reason for that is because these illusions, man, they're so hard to kill. This hero has so much HP, so much armor, and really the only way to tear through it is this AoE magic damage, and obviously Zeus has plenty. And it's scaling because of this talent tree and because of the static field percentage-based health reduction. I can absolutely deal with the Terrorblade. If you look at the other heroes on my team, they're actually not capable of dealing with the Terrorblade. Sure, we have good disables for him, which is excellent, but they don't have the damage. Terrorblade could honestly get to a point with these heroes, other than the Zeus, that we don't have enough damage to deal with him. If he gets a Scotty, if he gets a BKB, it could be very, very hard for us to deal with this hero. So essentially, I look at this game, I know that I'm Zeus, I picked this intentionally because I wanted to deal with the Terrorblade, so I know that this is my job to clear the Terrorblade illusions, and if he is having a good game at all, I'm going to need to do that job. So as a result, my positioning matters a lot, and that's in team fights, that's in sieging, that's in the laning phase, that's in everything, because I want my game to be good, I want to be alive, because I want to deal with that Terrorblade. Otherwise, he's going to completely run over us, especially because we don't actually have a true hard carry. So I need to position very well in this game, and I think that's a very important concept to take note of, that you should absolutely, before the game actually starts, consider these things. Because that way you're not going to have any fuck-ups in the game where it's like, oh, I didn't really realize how important I was until I died in that fight, and then my team couldn't fight. Like, the number one thing about positioning is that you very first need to understand why it actually is that your positioning matters. And then in the game, you'll be thinking about it. You'll go out of position for a second, think, oh, wait a minute, this is really bad. I need to value my life a lot more. So the second thing that I want to talk about is positioning in the laning phase. And first and foremost, in this game, my positioning in the laning phase mattered a lot less, simply because we had a very strong lane, and I do believe that, considering the Terrorblade used his Metamorphosis early at the rune, that we knew that we had the advantage going into this lane. So positioning does matter a lot less, but even when you have an advantage, your positioning still matters, just because you want to get the most resources that are available to you. Otherwise, the lanes that are losing, because naturally in Dota, if you're winning one lane, you're probably losing another one, maybe winning another one, maybe it's going even. But in general, if you're winning the lane, somebody is doing poorly as a result of that, and you need to get as much as you can. So speaking of getting as much as you can, one of the approaches to dealing with a lane like this, like a Terrorblade Winter Wyvern, where you have an advantage, but you know that they could also kill you if you get out of position, is that you essentially play very, very aggressive and think about how it is that they actually want to kill you in this lane. So the way that they want to kill me in this lane is that I'm a Zeus. I run away slowly from things. I have very low armor. So the way that they probably want to kill me is that I stand on the creep wave. They use the Splinter Blast. They use the Winter Wyvern Q on me. And then the Terrorblade pops meta. And then in the 2 to 3 seconds that they have me disabled with the Winter Wyvern spells, that's when they would kill me. So that would essentially require me to position both near the Terrorblade so he can get the hits off on me, and then on the creep wave so the Winter Wyvern can get the Winter Wyvern spells on me. The Winter Wyvern doesn't need to be close to me because the hero has very long range. Terrorblade does not. So I need to stand on the creep wave. So you might say, Jenkins, why is it in this video that we can see that you're standing on the creep wave? And that's because we took the aggressive approach to this problem, which is essentially we kept the Winter Wyvern and the Terrorblade low enough, as you can see their HP pools in the top of the screen. We kept them low enough because we knew we had enough damage to do so. that if they were to commit to us in that fashion, we would kill them. So that is a very important thing to consider when you have an advantage. Can we take an aggressive approach to this, where we can get kills, as well as farm and potentially have total control over the creep equilibrium? And the reason that you usually want to take an aggressive approach, if you can, is because you're going to get more doing that. And like I said, if you're winning the lane, there's going to be somebody else probably losing the lane on your team. So you need to take as much as you can. So that's the aggressive approach. The defensive approach in this game might be that and we'll see this in a little bit actually, the shaman stands to the left of the lane, which you can see that he's doing a lot right now, and then I stand to the right of the lane. And we both try to stand far enough away from each other that the Winter Wyvern cannot splinter blast both of us, and that if they commit to one of us, they cannot get the other one. And since the shaman is the hero that's standing to the left of the lane, it's very likely that he's the one that's going to get committed on, as you can see exactly what's happening here. So I'm standing to the right, I'm standing in the tree line, and because the shaman's on the left, and that's very likely where the Winter Wyvern's going to be positioning, because he doesn't want to be near us, he doesn't want to be in the trees to the right, essentially the shaman's going to get gone on. He didn't die, which is great, but because I'm on the right, they come to me, they try to kill me after they realize the shaman has gotten away, and I just TP to the tower. It's very, very easy, which, by the way, that's a very important thing to take note of, whether or not you can TP out, because then if you abuse that tree line and you abuse juking around and using TPs, a lot of the time you can win very, very hard lanes to win. But in any case, you can see that essentially what we did was we considered that the way that the Winter Wyvern Terrorblade kills us, which I already talked about in terms of the aggressive approach, you can also take the defensive approach to that, where you just don't enable that to happen. You just say, you know what, this is the only formula that's going to result in you killing us, so we're going to stand in a way in this lane that if you do this, you can only kill one of us, and it's not going to be the important hero, which is the Zeus. The shaman doesn't matter this game. Sure, he's our only pusher, so his positioning does matter a little bit, but he just gets the serpent wards off. He's done. You know, I need to stay alive, I need to get items, I need to kill the Terrorblade illusions. And so that's why we're essentially sacking him. He's also a support, so he can stand to the left. So basically, what you want to consider in the laning phase is, can you be aggressive or do you need to be defensive? What do the enemy heroes want to do to kill me? And where do you need to stand where they have the worst possible angle to kill you? And if you consider all of those things, it doesn't matter if you're a Zeus, it doesn't matter if you're a friggin' Pugna, Invoker, Techies, you're going to position well. And if you die, maybe just in the next time that you're alive or in the next game that you play, that you add that to your agenda for, like, okay, I need to be careful of this approach. Maybe a Winter Wyvern kills me like this. So the next thing that I want to talk about is positioning during team fights. And I want to do this by virtue of showing you a team fight where I think my positioning was fairly good. It was one of those fights that went very, very well for me. I ended up getting a lot of kills because of pretty good positioning, because of pretty good warding for my team. And yeah, it went pretty well. It was a good team fight. So I want to show you guys that. And the very first thing that I want to say before getting into it and showing you the team fight is that I think this is one of those principles that a lot of people do understand. When you look at a team fight, you can very easily say, you know, this guy should have been here, this guy should have been there. But the moment you're in your own team fight, the moment you're in your own game, it all goes out the window. And that is even true for professional players. That's not just a pub mentality thing. That's a professional thing too. And that's why heroes like Enigma and heroes like Magnus are so strong, because you start a fight, all of a sudden positioning goes out the window because people are thinking, oh, I need to, you know, hex the Wyvern, I need to cancel the Axe's Blink. There are all of these considerations that aren't just where am I standing, that just boggles your mind, and people forget about positioning, even on a professional level. And then boom, 5-man black hole, 5-man RP. That's why these heroes are so goddamn strong. That's why we see them get picked all the time. That's why we see, even in competitive games, 5-man spells all day, because it's a very hard thing to think about. But when you're playing a hero like Zeus, when you're playing a hero where positioning really, really matters, and you're not just some tanky frontline blade mail guy, you really, really need to think about this, because if you get caught out for a second, you will lose the fight. So let's go ahead and check this out. I will put the team fight on, and I'm just going to explain what my thought process kind of was, player perspective. So first and foremost, we see that the fight is starting. We know that Lina is dead. Shadow Shaman, we were calling for him to run to the bot rack, so we just wanted to drop the serpent ward, so we just wanted to take this fight no matter what. We have really good vision, so my first consideration is that I want to play around that. given how they were just focusing the Necro and that they're all clumped up here, I was fairly confident just running in and doing some damage. As soon as the axe runs towards me, I start running away. Because of how he wasn't angled towards me on that ramp, I figured that he doesn't have vision here. The Winter Wyvern, I think, just places it now, but he didn't have vision, and I was not that worried that he was going to blink on me. But in any case, I still look to cancel his blink dagger as much as I can. So Terrorblade comes in, he uses the BKB. I see that he's running towards the Invoker. You might think, why am I not running over to the Invoker? Why am I not helping him? And that's just because I want there to be a choice between me and the Invoker. If the Axe gets a blink call on both of us, or a Wyvern ult comes out on both of us, even if it kills the Invoker, it's worse that I'm in a position where I can die. So I actually was completely okay with sacrificing the Invoker in order to maintain my positioning. He didn't end up dying, which is great because he had the BKB. I see that the Terrorblade doesn't face towards me when I walk up to use spells, so I know that he doesn't have vision. I use the Arc Lightning on him, which gives him vision of me, and the moment that he goes to attack me, I blink away because I'm that afraid, because a single second where I'm lifted into the TB, they're going to very easily kill me. So the moment that they start chasing me, I just start zapping and trying to waste their time to kind of distract them, to pull them towards me, because I know that they don't have vision over here, just how they were positioning at the start of the fight. The Rubik runs up the hill, separates from the Terrorblade. He almost gets his lift on me. You can actually see that but it doesn't really matter. That's kind of why I was very aggressive in my zapping of him and cutting him up the hill, because the vision that we have on the TB showed me that he was running away. So even if the Rubik lifts me, nothing happens. Since the Rubik was out of position and we were able to kite him over here, we end up killing him. 100 seconds that he's dead. So now they lack one of their most important heroes because he's their stunner. Axe walks in and uses the right-click to take off the Bane Nightmare from the Terrorblade. They're focusing on the Bane, so I'm very confident just staying on this low ground in a position where they'd have to commit completely to me and ignore the Bane, which is not going to happen because they're focusing on him in order to kill me. Wyvern uses the Splinter Blast on me, which doesn't slow me, which is great. I don't know. I guess he was going for the Invoker. At least he got that farm. But most important thing right now is I'm maintaining my position on the low ground. I'm keeping myself to the far right of the camera, keeping my camera so I can see all of the heroes, most importantly the Axe, because he's the hero that's going to catch me out, given that the Lina and the Rubik are dead. And I want to do damage to the Terrorblade. I'm not that worried about him getting his spells on me because they're not going to disable me for long enough for him to do damage. He's a damage dealer. Axe walks over to the Bane. Maybe he's a little low. Maybe he wants to get out of the fight. So we get this Terrorblade separated over here. Still, I'm positioning to the right because I want to see if the Axe is going to go on me. They don't have Metamorphosis, so it doesn't really matter all that much. I'm trying to stay as far away from the Invoker as possible, so that way when the call comes out onto him, I can use my Yule Scepter on the Axe, and that way we're just not called together. As a result, not sure if they kill the Invoker, but in any case, okay, so I thought that Splinter Blast was coming out of me, so I blinked, and as you can see, like I'm very, very confident in this game, sacrificing my Invoker if it results in me surviving, just because of how much damage I'm doing. I wish I could see the team fight damage, but at the end of this game, it was I was like triple the damage of the next guy. So, and that's just Zeus. That's why your positioning matters so much. But in any case, because I've been standing so far away from my team, because I've essentially been using my team as a bodyguard for me, using them as a distraction for me, and positioning as far away from them as I can, using them as bait, I was able to survive this entire team fight. Now it's just the Axe alive, and we're about to get a 5-for-1 trade. And then, of course, I'm going to steal this kill here. Wouldn't be a Zeus player if I didn't steal the kill. But I think in that fight, I got like 4 kills, probably did like 20,000 something ridiculous damage. And the only reason for that is because, number one, I played around the vision, knowing where they had vision, where they didn't, just based on how they were angling their heroes. I was using my team as bait. I was not standing anywhere near my team because then they're going to get the double calls. They would get vision of me if my team uses spells that give vision, because it gives the AoE vision. Essentially just staying away from my team, trying to angle such that I could get the long-range zaps off, keeping my blink dagger up. If they did chase me, I go into runaway mode. If they aren't chasing me, I zap from as far away as possible, essentially being that kind of annoying guy that's just sitting on the edge of the team fight, trying to do as much as possible without dying. Like, hey guys, don't focus on me. Don't worry, I'm just zapping over here. And then if they do chase me, I just run away. And as a result, this fight went very, very well for me, and hopefully fights will go well for you too if you are also playing around vision, playing around, baiting your team if you have to, and really just considering what it is that you need to do in the fight, what it is that the enemy team can do to get on you. Like, for instance, I was avoiding the axe. I was avoiding the Rubik lift. As soon as the Rubik dies, I play a little more aggressively because I know they have no stuns, and I just have to focus on the axe, for example. So I was originally going to cover positioning during sieging, positioning during Roshan, all of these little micro concepts, but I had the realization that if you can manage to learn to position yourself during team fights, you are going to not struggle at all with positioning during these other situations, just because team fights are probably the most hectic scenarios in Dota. There's a lot of information to process, and the considerations that you'll be making are going to be the exact same. What really matters is just thinking about it, just doing it, because a lot of people don't pay any mind to positioning whatsoever. So essentially, when it comes to positioning, it's relatively simple when it comes to what the flowchart is for it, but actually going through the flowchart maybe is the difficult part because you need to know all the heroes. But with that being said, what you want to do, consider what your job is in the game, how important it is that you do that job, and then with that in mind, what do the enemy heroes do in fights that is going to result in you dying and not being able to do that job. So in this game, for example, we have the Axe Call, we have the Rubik Lift, we have the Lina Yules, maybe the Winter's Curse, but he's going to be pretty far away from me, and I'm going to be pretty far away from the fight because I'm going to be zapping, so it's not that big of an issue. So essentially, there's 3 heroes that I know that can kill me. So with Zeus, in this game, I'm looking to essentially bait my team, wait for a fight to start, and then I'm going in. I'm not going to start the fight myself. Maybe in another game, you want to be the one that's baiting. Maybe you actually want to wait for a certain spell to be cast before you go in. These are all considerations that you need to make. What's most important is thinking about what is the flow that needs to happen in order for me to not die in this fight and me to do my job. And if you could think about that, you're going to win team fights. And if you could win team fights by good positioning, then you'll have no issues with positioning around Roche, around sieging. It's the exact same considerations, but easier.